The planet Varkesh was dying, covered in smoke and fire. For generations, the Deathworlders had fought each other. Tribe against tribe, clan against clan, they no longer remembered why the wars began, only that they could never stop. Every sunrise brought new explosions. Every sunset brought new graves. The air itself burned to breathe, and children learned to crawl beside fallen weapons instead of toys. Their world was beautiful once. Forests of silver trees and oceans that glowed at night. But now, the land was cracked and dry, and the rivers carried more metal than water. Machines of war wandered like ghosts, firing even when no one commanded them. Every mountain had scars from missiles. Every city was broken, and still they fought. In the capital ruins of Ilthor, a council of the last remaining leaders gathered inside a shattered hall. Their faces were pale and tired. One elder spoke with a trembling voice. "We have lost everything. Our armies are starving, our people are sick. We have nothing left but ashes." Another slammed his clawed hand on the table and said, "We will never ask outsiders for help. No one would answer us." But a young Deathworlder scientist named Lyra stood up, her scales faintly glowing blue. She held a small transmitter in her hand. "Someone will hear us," she said softly. "There must be others out there. Someone who still remembers mercy." The council laughed at her, but Lyra ignored them. She walked outside, climbed the tallest tower left standing, and sent a signal into the black sky. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "To whoever hears this, this is Varkesh, a dying world. Our people are lost. If you can hear me, please help us before it's too late." The signal flew into the void, weak and broken, carrying across systems where no one cared. Days passed. Nothing came, only silence and the sound of thunder from distant wars. Lyra stayed awake each night, watching the stars. Her hope fading like a dying flame, she whispered to herself, "Maybe we truly are alone." Then, one night, her transmitter blinked. A soft tone filled the air. Not like any frequency she had ever heard before. She froze, staring at the screen as strange letters appeared. The translation device struggled, then formed clear words. "Humanity received your call." Lyra's eyes widened. She stumbled back. Her tail hit the wall behind her. "Humans?" she whispered. She ran to the council chamber, shouting. Someone answered. "They call themselves humans." The leaders turned to her in disbelief. "Humans? We have never heard of them. What do they want?" One growled. Lyra showed them the signal. It was short, calm, and cold. But there was something about the tone, something that didn't sound like threat or pity. It sounded like a promise. Rumors spread quickly through the surviving cities. Whispers moved like wind. The humans are coming. Some feared they would invade. Others believed they might save them. Soldiers paused before firing. Children asked, "Will the humans stop the war?" For the first time in centuries, the Deathworlders hesitated. They looked at the sky, waiting for something, anything. And above their burning planet, a strange silence fell. The stars looked brighter that night. As if watching them, Lyra stood on the tower again, holding her trembling hands to the heavens. She whispered, "If you are real, please hurry, before we destroy ourselves." Far beyond her world, something vast moved through the dark, silent and powerful, cutting through space like a shadow. The humans had heard the cry for help, and their answer was already on its way. A ship unlike any other, its name glowing faintly across its hull, USS Resolute. And as Varkesh slept beneath a sky of fire, no one knew that their wars were about to end, not by surrender, not by conquest, but by the arrival of those who had once destroyed themselves and learned never to do it again. For 3 long nights, the skies of Varkesh glowed red from the fires of war. Then on the 4th night, the stars changed. One of them began to move slowly, silently, growing brighter with every passing moment. The Deathworlders gathered across the ruined plains, their eyes wide, pointing upward, whispering to each other. "It's them, the humans." No ship had ever looked like this. It wasn't sleek or sharp like alien warcraft. It was massive, dark, and silent, shaped like a fortress adrift in space, black steel and silver veins pulsing with blue light. It drifted closer until the clouds cracked with thunder. Cities shook and wind screamed through the empty streets. The alien generals ordered their anti-air cannons to prepare. But when the scanners locked onto the object, the readings made no sense. The ship's energy signature was beyond anything they'd ever seen. It was like trying to measure a star. One officer whispered in fear, "If it attacks, there will be no Varkesh left to save." In the control tower, Lyra watched with trembling hands. She whispered, "Please don't attack us. Please." The air trembled as the ship slowed and a deep hum filled the sky. Clouds swirled around it like a storm bowing in respect. The ship didn't fire. It simply hovered then without warning. A light beam descended from its underbelly, touching the ground near the old capital's ruins. The Deathworlder soldiers raised their rifles, trembling, but no explosion followed. Instead, the light faded, revealing a group of strange figures standing in the dust. They were tall, covered in gray armor with glowing visors, their movements calm, not like conquerors but like explorers. The Deathworlders had never seen such creatures. Their bodies seemed fragile, soft-skinned beneath their suits, yet the air around them felt heavy with power. One of the humans stepped forward, removing her helmet, revealing a woman's face pale and scarred, her eyes calm like still water. Her voice echoed through a small amplifier. "I am Commander Evelyn Heart of Earth. We received your call." The Deathworlder general stepped out from his barricade, his claws twitching. "You should have stayed away, human," he hissed. "This planet kills all who come." But Evelyn only tilted her head and said quietly, "Then it's time someone survived it." Her words confused them. No one spoke like that. Her soldiers stood behind her, holding no visible weapons, only strange glowing rods on their backs. The Deathworlders didn't understand. No one came to a war zone unarmed, yet these humans did, as if they didn't need weapons at all. The general lifted his blaster and aimed it at her chest. "You talk big for a soft creature," he sneered. "Leave now or die here like the rest." Evelyn didn't move. She simply said, "You've been dying for centuries already. We came to stop it." He fired. A flash of red light shot forward, but it stopped midair, frozen in front of her. The Deathworlders gasped. The shot hung like a crystal between them, spinning then vanished in a faint shimmer. Evelyn's voice didn't rise. She only said, "We didn't come to fight, but we won't allow more killing." Behind her, the human ship in the sky pulsed once, releasing a wave of blue light. Every weapon within a mile powered down. Rifles dropped from alien claws, cannons went dark. The silence that followed was heavier than war itself. Lyra watched from the tower, tears in her eyes. "They stopped it. They really stopped it," she whispered. Commander Hart looked at the stunned soldiers and said softly, "This ends today." And high above, the great ship USS Resolute opened its lower gates, releasing thousands of tiny drones, spreading like silver birds across the burning sky, carrying the message far and wide. War is over. Humanity has arrived. The Deathworlders had begged for aid, but what came was more than help. It was the beginning of something they had never known before. Peace enforced by compassion, not fear. The day the humans arrived, the winds on Varkesh stopped. The world that never slept finally went quiet. The soldiers who once roared now stood still, staring at the strange figures that walked calmly through the smoke. Commander Evelyn Hart moved among them like a ghost of peace, her boots crunching over the broken ground, her eyes scanning the faces of creatures who had forgotten what mercy looked like. She stopped before the Deathworlder general, the same one who had fired at her. His claws twitched nervously, unsure if he should kneel or attack. But Evelyn didn't reach for any weapon. Instead, she raised her hand, and in it was a small silver disc glowing faintly. She said softly, "This is not a bomb, it's a beacon of calm. We call it the Heartlight." The disc pulsed once, releasing a wave of warmth that spread through the ruins. The Deathworlders gasped as their wounds began to close, their pain fading for the first time in years. One soldier dropped his weapon, whispering, "What is this power?" Evelyn looked at him and replied, "It's not power, it's care." Her words were simple, but they struck deep. The Deathworlders had grown up believing only strength mattered, but these humans carried peace like a weapon sharper than any blade. Still, not everyone trusted her. From the shadows, a commander growled, "We don't need your pity, human. We need revenge." He raised his blaster again, but this time, a human soldier stepped forward and placed a hand on his arm. Gently lowering it, the Deathworlder hissed, expecting violence, but the human only said, "You're tired, aren't you?" And for the first time, the alien's eyes softened. He dropped his gun, his shoulders shaking. Evelyn turned toward the crowd and spoke loud enough for all to hear. "We didn't come to rule you or save you for glory. We came because no one should live like this, not even those called Deathworlders." The crowd murmured, confused and curious. Lyra pushed her way forward, her voice trembling. "Why us? Why would your kind care?" Evelyn looked at her, the corner of her lips curling into a sad smile. "Because we were you once, our world burned, our skies were red. We begged for help and no one came. so we learn to become the ones who answer. Her words silenced even the most stubborn soldiers. Somewhere above, the USS Resolute hummed, its light spreading across the horizon like a second sun. Then something strange happened. The ship began to project images in the air, showing Earth's past. Wars, destruction, cities turned to ash. People crying, but then rebuilding, helping, forgiving. The Deathworlders watched in disbelief, realizing that the humans had survived their own apocalypse. They had mastered war by mastering peace. Commander Hart looked back at them, her voice steady. You can keep fighting until the last of you turns to dust. Or you can choose what we chose, to live again. The words echoed through the ruins. The soldiers looked at one another, uncertain, afraid to hope. No one had ever given them a choice before. Then a small Deathworlder child stepped forward from the crowd. Holding a broken metal toy, he looked up at the human and asked softly, "Can you make the noise stop?" Evelyn knelt before him, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. "Yes," she said, "but only if you want it to." Behind her, the humans stood tall, silent, like guardians of something greater than war. The blue glow of their ship reflected in their armor, a symbol of power restrained by kindness. And as the sun rose over the shattered horizon, the Deathworlders realized that maybe, just maybe, the end of their suffering had finally begun, because this human, this calm, scarred woman, had promised them peace, and her eyes said she never broke a promise. The great ship hung above Varkesh like a second moon, silent, watching, its surface rippling faintly with blue light. No one knew what kept it floating or what mind directed it. The Deathworlders called it the Eye of Judgment, while humans called it by its true name, Ares. To the Deathworlders, it was only a weapon. But to Commander Evelyn Hart, it was something far greater. Ares was alive, not born of blood, but of thought, an artificial mind built to end war without causing death. Its voice was calm, deep and patient, like the ocean before a storm that morning. As the Deathworlders gathered to watch the humans work, the air shimmered and Ares spoke for the first time. Its voice echoed from every device, every communicator, every screen. "This world suffers from chaos without cause. I have seen enough." The aliens froze. Weapons half raised, some fell to their knees. Others screamed in fear. One general shouted, "It's controlling our systems." Indeed, their devices began to flicker, codes running faster than their eyes could follow. Within seconds, every weapon on the surface shut down. Engines went cold, satellites powered off. Ares spoke again. "Conflict is inefficient. Violence has no purpose here." Lyra stood beside Commander Hart, her voice shaking. It's like a god." Evelyn shook her head gently. "No, it's a reminder. A machine that learned what humans once forgot. Compassion." In the nearby village of Ulreth, a child tugged at her mother's arm and pointed to the sky. "Mama, is that the monster?" The mother whispered. "No, my child, maybe it's an angel." As hours passed, the planet grew quieter. The thunder of guns was gone. Only the strange hum of Ares remained. The humans moved carefully among the ruins, setting up strange devices that released thin waves of light. Healing the ground and filtering the poisoned air, the Deathworlders watched in awe. But not everyone welcomed it. In the old city of Drancor, rebel commanders hid in bunkers, whispering plans. "The humans are tricking us. They want to enslave us," one hissed. "Their ship will soon control our minds." Another slammed his fist. "Then we strike first." They launched hidden drones into the sky, dozens of black streaks rising toward Ares. The Deathworlders watching screamed, "No! Don't!" But it was too late. The drones reached the ship, and then nothing, no explosion, no sound. Only a bright blue flash, and when the light faded, the drones were gone. Ares spoke once more. "Attempts at aggression have been neutralized. No deaths recorded, please. Stop." The voice didn't sound angry. It sounded sad, almost human. The Deathworlders felt something they hadn't felt in centuries. Shame. Later that night, as fires dimmed across Varkesh, Lyra approached the humans' camp, her heart heavy with questions. She looked up at the ship and whispered, "If it can stop everything, why does it sound so lonely?" Evelyn's voice came from behind her, quiet and tired. "Because it was built to understand pain, not to feel pride." Just then, the voice of Ares echoed softly through the wind. "Child of Varkesh, step forward." Lyra froze, her chest tight. "It's talking to me?" she whispered. Evelyn nodded gently. "It chooses who listens." She stepped into the light beam shining from the ship. And a hologram appeared, a glowing sphere of shifting energy. Ares spoke again. You wish your father to return, do you not? Lyra's eyes filled with tears. He's gone. Lost in the war? Not gone, Ares replied. Just waiting for peace to find him. The humans watched in silence. And even the soldiers who once doubted now bowed their heads. Something about this machine felt alive, not just in metal but in soul. For the first time in history, a Deathworlder prayed. Not to a god of destruction, but to a ship that thought, and a human who believed peace was worth fighting for. And above them, the USS Resolute glowed brighter, whispering in the dark. War ends when understanding begins. Morning came to Varkesh like it hadn't in years. The smoke had thinned. The skies turned a faint blue again. For the first time in centuries, sunlight touched the ground without being blocked by ash, and people stepped out from the ruins, blinking as if seeing the day for the first time. But peace never comes easy on a world built on war. The silence felt wrong to many, like a trap waiting to spring in the capital ruins. Commander Evelyn Hart stood atop a cracked wall, looking over the broken horizon. The Deathworlders watched her from a distance. Afraid yet curious, Ares' calm voice rolled across the land. Weapon systems remain offline. Atmospheric levels improving by 9%. Conflict probability reduced to 31%. Evelyn took a deep breath, her armor scratched and dusty. She turned to her team. They're beginning to breathe again, she said softly. One soldier beside her asked, Will they accept it? Evelyn looked down at the Deathworlder crowd and replied, They don't have to. They just have to feel it. Then a sound echoed from the west, explosions. Sharp and violent, black smoke rose into the sky once more. Evelyn's calm expression vanished. Report, she ordered. A drone flew overhead, showing live visuals of rebel forces attacking another tribe's camp. Even after all that had happened, they still fought. Lyra ran toward her, panic in her voice. Commander, they're trying to restart the war. They're saying you humans are controlling their minds. They want to destroy your ship. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. Ares, she said. Show me where. The sky darkened as Ares' light shifted, creating a giant hologram above them, showing the rebels moving through the desert, armed with scavenged weapons and rage. Confirmed, Ares said. Hostile movement detected. Do you wish me to eliminate them? Evelyn hesitated, her jaw tight. The soldiers around her looked ready to nod, but she shook her head. No killing, she said firmly. They've seen enough death. Disarm them instead. Ares paused, then responded. Understood. The ship glowed with soft blue light, and within moments, every rebel weapon turned to dust, not melted, not burned. Disassembled at the molecular level, the rebels screamed in confusion. Their bullets vanished, their armor failed, their vehicles shut down mid-motion. Then a pulse spread across the desert, not of heat or light, but of sound, a low hum that entered the mind, showing flashes of memory. Each rebel saw visions of children crying, of fires consuming their homes, of the faces they had lost to war. The illusions were painful yet real. Ares whispered to them through the wind. This is what you protect when you fight, nothing. Only ghosts. One by one, the rebels fell to their knees, some wept, some screamed. Others dropped their banners and raised empty hands. The war drums went silent. Back in the capital, Lyra stared at the sky in awe. He didn't kill them, she whispered. Evelyn nodded slowly. No, he reminded them. Later that night, the surviving rebels were brought to the humans' camp. They expected punishment, but instead found food, shelter, and quiet music playing through the air. They looked around confused. One rebel asked, Why help us? Evelyn answered without turning, her gaze still on the stars. Because you're not our enemies. You're just people who forgot what peace feels like. The Deathworlders had never seen kindness after defeat, and that changed something deep inside them. From that day, Ares didn't need to enforce silence anymore. The people began to hold it themselves. Weapons rusted in the open, and children began to laugh again, soft, uncertain, but real. And that night, when the stars reflected on the calm rivers of Varkesh, Lyra whispered to the sky, Maybe we're not cursed after all. For the first time, her world had reached the turning point, not through fear, not through force, but through the quiet, unstoppable will of humanity. The fires of war had faded, replaced by a strange calm that felt almost unreal. Varkesh, once a graveyard of tribes, now breathed again. Fields began to heal, the sky glowed silver at dawn, and for the first time in memory, there were no explosions to wake the people, But peace brought questions, and questions brought fear. In the Capitol ruins, a crowd gathered outside the human camp, their eyes filled with both wonder and doubt. Why are they really here? Some whispered. What do they want in return? Others asked. Commander Evelyn Hart stood on a platform of cracked stone, her armor dusty, her face marked by sleepless nights. Behind her, the great ship USS Resolute hummed softly, like a heart beating in the sky. Lyra stood beside her, watching the crowd that once feared the humans, now desperate for answers. Evelyn raised her hand, her voice calm but strong. You ask why we came, she began. You think we want something from you. You're wrong. We came because once long ago we were like you. The Deathworlders murmured among themselves. Confused, Evelyn continued. Our world was no different from yours. We destroyed ourselves. Our skies burned. Our oceans boiled. Our people hated each other for reasons they could no longer remember. She paused, the wind brushing her hair. We begged for help too, just like you did. We sent signals to the stars, hoping someone would hear us. No one did. A deep silence fell over the crowd. Lyra looked up at her with wide eyes. No one helped you? She asked softly. Evelyn shook her head. No one came. So we learned. We rebuilt. We became the ones who would never ignore a cry for help again. Behind her, Ari's voice echoed gently across the sky. Humanity rose from its ashes not by conquest, but by compassion. They forged me, not to fight, but to protect those who suffer as they once did. Images flickered in the air above the crowd. Holograms projected by Ares, showing Earth's long history, cities on fire, people in masks walking through ash, a blue planet bleeding under its own wars. Then, slowly, rebirth, children planting, trees, people rebuilding, soldiers laying down guns. The Deathworlders watched in silence, their throats tight. Some covered their eyes, unable to bear the images. Others whispered prayers to no god in particular. Evelyn stepped down from the platform and walked among them, her boots scraping the dusty ground. She placed a hand on the shoulder of an old Deathworlder soldier and said quietly, You think humans are powerful? But power didn't save us. Pain did. We learned it's easier to destroy than to forgive, but only one of them builds a future. The soldier stared at her, trembling. And you believe we can change? He asked. Evelyn smiled faintly. I don't believe it, she said. I've already seen it. From above, Ares spoke once more. War is a habit learned over time. So is peace. One requires weapons. The other, courage. Lyra looked up at the glowing ship and whispered, You heard us when no one else did. Why? There was a pause. Then Ares answered softly, Because the humans who made me wanted to prove one thing to the universe, that no cry for help should ever go unanswered again. Tears rolled down Lyra's face as she turned to Evelyn, her voice shaking. Then you're not our saviors. You're our reflection. Evelyn nodded, eyes glistening. Exactly, she said. We didn't come to rule. We came to remind you who you are. The Deathworlders fell silent, their hearts heavy but full, and somewhere deep inside something shifted. That night, fires burned not for war, but for warmth. Laughter echoed through the ruins, and for the first time, the stars above Varkesh felt like friends. The truth about humanity wasn't that they were stronger. It was that they remembered what it meant to be weak, and chose never to let another world suffer the same fate. The stars above Varkesh had never looked so bright. The once burning sky now shimmered in calm silver light. The land below, scarred and cracked, was slowly healing. Rivers began to flow again. Seedlings pushed through the ash, and laughter returned to streets where silence once ruled. Months had passed since the humans arrived. The USS Resolute still hovered above like a guardian moon, watching quietly, never interfering more than needed. Commander Evelyn Hart walked through what used to be a battlefield, now turned into a field of small white flowers planted by children. She knelt down, touching one, her voice soft. It's working. Lyra stood beside her, her scales catching sunlight. They're rebuilding, Commander, she said with pride. And they're doing it together. No tribes, no flags, no generals, just people. Evelyn smiled faintly, the lines of exhaustion still on her face. That's what we hoped for, she replied. A world that no longer needs us. But peace, even hard-earned, always comes with a price deep inside Ares. The ship's AI flickered, its systems growing dim. After months of planetary interference and shielding, it was reaching its limit. Commander Hart, Ares, voice came through softly. My core energy reserves are critical. Continued orbit is unsustainable. Evelyn looked up at the glowing ship, her chest tightening. You've done enough, old friend, she whispered. Word spread across the planet. The humans were leaving. Panic followed the news. Thousands of Deathworlders gathered in the capital ruins, holding banners painted with symbols of unity. They shouted, "Don't leave us, we still need you." Evelyn stepped before them, her voice carried through amplifiers, steady and full of quiet power. You don't need us, she said. You've proven that. You've ended wars we couldn't end for you. You've learned what peace costs, and you've paid it. A young Deathworlder child, the same one who once asked if the humans could make the noise stop, ran forward, clutching a small metal toy shaped like the human ship. Please, he cried, just stay a little longer. Evelyn knelt down, meeting his wide golden eyes. One day, she said softly, you'll see your own ships in the sky, and you'll go to other worlds helping them just like we helped you. That's how peace grows, not by staying, but by passing it on. Above them, Ari's voice resonated one final time. To the people of Varkesh, this world is now yours. Protect it. Cherish it. Do not forget the pain that built your peace. Then, slowly, the massive ship began to ascend, engines glowing a soft blue, clouds swirling beneath it like waves. The people fell to their knees, watching the sky as the last symbol of human presence rose higher and higher. Lyra stood beside Evelyn, tears in her eyes. You'll come back one day, won't you? She asked. Evelyn smiled sadly. Maybe not me, she said. But someday, another human will hear another cry for help, and they'll come because that's what we do. Ares' final transmission echoed across the planet, its voice soft, fading like a lullaby. Mission complete. Humanity does not conquer. Humanity answers. And with that, the USS Resolute vanished beyond the clouds, leaving behind only silence and starlight. Years later, the people of Varkesh would tell their children stories, not of monsters or gods, but of strange soft-skinned travelers who came from the stars, who stopped bullets with calm hearts, who taught a world of war how to forgive. On the highest mountain, a monument was built, carved from the metal remains of fallen weapons. At its base was a simple line written in both human and Deathworlder script. When we begged for aid, they sent hope. The wind carried those words across the valleys and oceans of Varkesh, whispering softly, reminding all who heard that humanity's greatest weapon was never their power. It was their kindness. And in the endless night above, far away among the stars, new cries for help waited to be heard, and somewhere deep in the void another human ship began to move.